Political Correctness in My Generation by Theodore Gabriel Howe. Politically correct is a term you've no doubt heard before, especially if you tune into American news. But what exactly does the term mean? Being politically correct is the principle of avoiding language and behavior that may offend particular groups of people. But wait, you ask me, isn't that just being polite? Well, the main difference is that political correctness zeroes in particularly on racial, ethnic, and social groups that are in the minority. You're being correct in the political sense of the word. Let's have an example. This fine fellow is Jerry, an American citizen, and he belongs to an ethnic group that wears this kind of headband. Now, what would be the politically correct term to refer to them? Are they Indians? No. Are they Redskins? No. Are they a source of free manual labor? No, what? Get out of here, Christopher Columbus. These people are Native Americans, and it's the term that does not infringe on their cultural pride, hence, it's politically correct. So, what's the actual importance of being politically correct in the world? Well, we need to be respectful. It's a point of common decency. It also teaches us to be empathic, more understanding of these minorities and their struggles for acceptance. It also sensitizes us to be more culturally aware, which is good if you're visiting some place with different cultures and values. And it critically fosters an accepting and positive environment, which in these times of strife and division is a crucial thing. But most importantly, if you're one of these guys, it helps you bring in votes. If you're watching this and want to take up politics, you better take all these points into account. So, all in all, political correctness is necessary in that it helps educate people on the terms and nomenclature that are more culturally, politically, and socially applicable to minority groups. But wait, you think to yourself, necessary? Is it really necessary to avoid offending people? One of the concrete facts of this world is that whatever you do, you can't please everyone. You are bound to offend someone, and so the question is asked, do we actually need to be politically correct? There are some valid points made by people who feel constricted by the limits placed upon them by political correctness. According to them, political correctness impedes free speech. It disallows them from speaking certain terms and phrases that by definition they should be allowed to say. It also distorts arguments. There are debates that get halted because of things that get said which are construed as being politically incorrect or offensive, which cuts the flow of ideas short. And there are some people who claim offense from what they perceive as politically incorrect speech, turning themselves into victims over the slightest provocation. The reliance on the concept of political correctness has eroded the ability of some people to take offense, and it increases the urge to condemn anything that they perceive as offensive to a point of fault. But wait, you think to yourself again, isn't ignoring politically correct terms just plain rude? Then what exactly is the right path? Well, if you ask me about it, I give my stance based on a personal experience that I had with political correctness and cancel culture in high school. Trigger warning, the story I'm about to tell you is personal, and there may be some explicit words in what I'm about to show you. So back in 2020, I was a young, naive high school student forced into the condition of online learning during the COVID-19 pandemic. It was a very hard time for students like me because we were all forced to interact digitally. I swear the amount of group chats that were created in Messenger and Discord at the time was mind-blowing. Now at the time, I was still dating this girl who was one of my high school batchmates. Let me go on a quick tangent and talk to you about this girl to give you some context. She was very headstrong and opinionated about issues in corruption, racism, and whatnot. And I guess in hindsight, that may be what drew me to her because we both love to argue and debate ideas. Anyway, she was very into the concept of political correctness, which is ultimately why we broke up. Because during the pandemic, there was a group chat that got leaked. To give more context, this was a boys' group chat, and its members were part of the same friend group that me and my girlfriend were a part of. So the boys' group chat got leaked, and there were jokes there that were not so appealing to people with the same ideals as my girlfriend. In context, there was no malicious intent, and those jokes were of course not meant. But nevertheless, it became a huge issue in our batch with some very dedicated people calling for the immediate expulsion of the people in the group chat. It became an issue between me and my girlfriend too because the people in the group chat and the people who were condemning them were all part of the same friend group, which included the both of us. It really felt like a civil war, and I unfortunately got caught in the crossfire. Because I tried reasoning out that the jokes in the group chat were taken out of context. They weren't meant, and besides, the people were our friends. Shouldn't they have been given the benefit of the doubt? But no, my girlfriend was livid. She told her friends, who coincidentally were also my friends, and they cancelled me. We had a huge fight over it because she thought I was picking their side when really I didn't have a side. I just wanted everyone to get along like we used to before the pandemic. Eventually, I tried to speak about it to her again, and she called me an enabler, and she threatened to include me in a written report that they were making to condemn our friends in the group chat. That hurt me because this was a person who I had feelings for, and I knew her. I knew her attitude wasn't like that, and it really isn't like her to condemn people over jokes. But in the end, the report was filed and the case was taken to the disciplinary office. We broke up shortly afterwards. To take a quote by Teodoro Agoncillo from a historian's context and apply it here. Constancy, or the invariability of a scene, therefore, is a primary factor to be considered in determining the validity or historicity of a description. The validity of the accusations of my other batchmates were dismissed by the disciplinary committee because the jokes were obviously not meant to be taken seriously. They took words out of context, which is a big problem with what is happening now with being politically correct and giving in to cancel culture. People start to condemn without first trying to understand. Another quote by John Schumacher. Documents are not self-interpreting and therefore need a human interpreter, the historian. Being human, he brings with him not only his viewpoint, but also his biases and prejudices. We're all only human, and when we see things, we perceive them with all the biases and prejudices that being a human entails. We are opinionated creatures, and so we bring our opinions with us when considering the world around us. So my opinion is this. There's nothing wrong with political correctness, but I feel that my generation takes being politically correct too far sometimes, and it's slowly starting to pervade their identities. Cancel culture is too closely relied upon by my contemporaries, and I fear that it's desensitizing them to dealing with issues in a more rational way. It's condemn first and think about it later, which is something that I hope won't become too commonplace for future generations. And that concludes my presentation. I hope you had fun, and thank you for listening. Catch you on the flip side.